Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you my July book haul. So July was a pretty haul-tastic month. I ended up picking up a fair few books, although fewer than my usual, like, arm-breaking 20-plus stack. But I did end up getting some really good stuff this month, some from publishers, but mostly ones that I bought for myself. So we have a really good combination here of historical fiction, we have some kind of contemporary thriller, we got loads of fantasy and loads of sci-fi, and some manga as well, which is a new fun theme for this channel. I've not really read a whole lot of manga since I was a teenager, and I'm starting to get back into it. So all of these things you will see in this stack of books. What I'm going to do is what I usually do. I am going to show you the books that I was sent by publishers, and then the books that I was kind enough to myself to buy. So let's go ahead and get started. Right. Okay, so I have 4 books from publishers to start with. 2 of these are from Tor Books, one is from Joe Fletcher, and one is from Solaris. So let's start with Tor, because there's 2 of them. So the very first book, I'm like 90% sure I hauled this month and not last month. If I did haul it last month, you'll just see it again, I guess. I have this weird, like, deja vu about this. This is Sorcery of Queen by Brian Naslund. So, this is the second book in the Dragons of Terra series, The Blood of an Exile being the first one, which was one of my favorite books of 2019. I loved it. It was so much fun. It's total mantasy. It's man fantasy, but it was brilliantly, like, updated from kind of classic fantasy. It has a lot of those sort of vibes, but it has like women in it and women who do stuff, which is very exciting. Women not being in fantasy books and women being in fantasy books but not actually doing anything are like my big pet peeves for fantasy, and so I was very taken by surprise by Blood of an Exile. So I'm very excited for this one. This comes out in early August from Tor Books, and it's gonna be real good. So I basically haven't looked at what this book is about yet, although I assume from the title we follow Queen of My Heart, Ashlyn, who is a character in the first book. She is one of the perspective characters. So basically this series follows a character named Bershund, and he is a dragon slayer, and he has been condemned to be a dragon slayer. It's basically a death sentence in this land because dragon slayers don't really hold up against dragons very well. However, he has managed to survive for a number of years, becoming this kind of unintentionally legendary figure. So the king, who is the father of our Queen Ashlyn here, calls him back to the capital and asks him to basically do him a big favor. Which has to be a really big favor if you condemned this man to death and now you want him to help you out. So Ashlyn is the former lover of Bershund, and they had this kind of this relationship that really ended when he was sentenced basically to death. And she gets a perspective, like point of view chapters in that book, and I really enjoyed her story, and I was very curious to see how her story was going to continue based on how that book ended. So I'm very much looking forward to this. It's really good fun. As I say, it's got like a lot of the vibes of a really good, fun, kind of classic fantasy adventure romp, but it's got women in it and like women who do stuff. So it feels very modern, but it also has that really fun nostalgia for a classic fantasy series. So this is gonna be a really good one. I'm very excited for this. Then we have Mega Chunk, To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. The publisher was very kind in sending me this, along with some lovely goodies like candles and bookmarks. I'm really excited for this one. I've actually technically, can you see my bookmark? I've already started it. I'm about 50 pages in, but if you've seen my August TBR, you will know that I have been reading The Way of Kings, which is another mega chunk book, and reading 2 giant books at the same time just wasn't really working. So once I finish The Way of Kings, this is my next huge book. So basically, to keep things a little bit vague, mostly because I don't really know a lot of the details of this book yet, we follow a character named Kira, and she is essentially part of a terraforming team. Humanity is spreading out amongst the stars, and she helps prepare these planets for terraforming terraforming and then for colonization. So she's having a great time. She's just engaged to be married to this man that she loves, and she's considering her future when she stumbles upon an alien artifact and everything goes to hell from there. So this sounds really, really good. This sounds like a really interesting one. I was lucky enough to be invited to a virtual event with him and Adrian Tchaikovsky, one of my favorite authors, where they talked about this and The Doors of Eden, which is also on that August TBR, and I'm so excited for this. I was excited for it anyway, but hearing him talk about it and some of the things that he included and he researched and stuff made me even more excited for this one. So this comes out on September 15th here in the UK, and I assume in the US as well, and it's one that I'm very, very excited for. I have pre-ordered the Goldsboro special edition of this book. I don't know if there are any more left, but you should jump on it if you're interested, because I think it's going to be a gorgeous edition. This looks amazing. I'm very excited. So moving on to the other two review copies I have. The first is from Solaris. This is Shadow and the Empire of Light by Jane Routley. This sounds like so much fun. It has two things that interest me. The tagline, magic, murder, and mayhem, but keep it in the family. And it has a cat on the cover. Apparently there's a telepathic cat in this book. That sounds amazing! So basically, this book follows a character named Shine, and their life is usually dull. So they're an orphan without magic in a family of powerful mages, and she's left to run the family estate with only an eccentric aunt and a telepathic cat for company. But when the family descends on the house for the annual fertility festival, Shine is plunged into intrigue, stolen letters, a fugitive spy, and family drama mixed with an unexpected murder, and Shine is forced to decide her loyalties and her future. So this sounds super fun. I believe the ebook for this one is out now. If not, it's coming out soon. Let's see. Yeah, so the ebook for the US and the UK is out on the 6th of August, so that's very, very soon. And for the UK, this paperback will come out on the 21st of January in 2021. So if you're excited for this one, you can go ahead and read it very, very soon, but the paperback will be out a little bit later. This sounds like so much fun. This sounds like the perfect antidote to all the real serious stuff I've been reading lately. And the last review copy that I have is Divine Heretic by Jamie Lee Moyer. This is the same author who wrote Brightfall, which came out last year, I believe, and is a Maid Marian perspective Robin Hood retelling, I believe, which I heard was really, really good. So this one is a historical fiction book, but may have some fantasy elements to it. It sounds like it might, but there's nothing here that like declares fantasy. So basically it's a retelling of Joan of Arc's story, and it looks really interesting. This was sent unsolicited, so it's not one that I requested or had even heard of, and I've lost the little slip of paper that tells me when it comes out, but it does come out in August in the UK from Joe Fletcher Books. So if you're interested in historical fiction, if you're interested in Joan of Arc's story, you should definitely pick this up. Okay, so now we're moving on to the 7 books that I bought for myself. The first 3, really easy. I picked up volumes 3, 4, and 5 of Death Note by Tsugumi Oba. So this series I've talked about a million times. I'm so tired of saying what it's about, but basically, character finds a death note in which he can write the name of any person. They will die almost instantly, decides to rid the world of criminals, kind of becomes a criminal himself, and it also follows the people who are trying to track him down and stop him from killing more people. Really good. Really enjoyed this. I really loved the first one, and I loved the second one as well, but the second one left a little to be desired with some of the female characters, which we can talk about separately. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this one is going to end, so I am planning on reading these very soon. I can just power through them in like a weekend or something like that. But because I know that I'm going to love them, I think I'm going to save them for a little bit, so we'll see when I get around to reading these. So next up I have 2 books that I bought because my friend Angela from Literature Science Alliance is a bad influence on my TBR. She read these and she really enjoyed them from what I saw. So the first one is Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord. I had heard of Karen Lord before, but I've never read any of her books, and I'm very, very intrigued by this. So this is another one that I don't really want to know a huge amount about before going in, because I think it'll be one that's really enjoyed knowing as little as possible, but I do know that it is a clever and contemporary fairy tale from a dynamic new voice. So her world of spiders, tricksters, and indigo immortals, inspired in part by Senegalese folk tales, is fresh, surprising, and utterly original. So this sounds really, really good. This sounds like great fun. As per usual, I'll link everything down below, so if you're annoyed with me for not really talking about what this book is about, you can go ahead and check it out, but it sounds like one I'm really, really gonna enjoy. And the other book that I bought because of Angela is Catfishing on Catnip by Naomi Kritzer. I believe this one was actually nominated for a Hugo for Young Adult book, which I didn't realize until after I had bought it. So basically, this one follows a girl named Steph, and she's never lived anywhere for longer than 6 months because she and her mum are constantly moving. I did read a little bit of the front pages of this. It's because they're trying to escape her father. So her only constant is the online community called Catnip, a social media site where users upload cat pictures. That sounds great. And a site that is adminned by Cheshire Cat, a sentient AI who loves cat pictures. It's my kind of AI. So when a threat from Steph's past catches up with her and Cheshire Cat's existence is discovered, it's up to Steph and her friends, both online and in real life, to save them. So it's a surprising and heartfelt near-future thriller about online privacy and out-of-control technology. So this sounds like a really, really interesting one. I'm very intrigued by this. It sounds a little bit different from a lot of the books that I have been reading, especially a lot of the YA that I've been reading, because I've been consuming tons and tons of fantasy and fantasy YA, and this sounds like it's going to be a little bit different, and sometimes I need that break. The next book that I bought, as I mentioned in my July wrap-up, I have a review coming up, so I'm not going to say very much because I talk about it in that review and in that wrap-up. This is Unconquerable Sun by Kate Elliott. I really, really enjoyed this one. This is a gender-swapped Alexander the Great retelling set in space. It is a sprawling space opera. It has tons of different points of view, really intricate world building, and it's just really good fun. It's not a perfect book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, but it is some of the most fun that I've had reading in a really long time. So I would definitely recommend picking this up if it sounds interesting to you. It's just such good fun. Keep an eye out for my review that is forthcoming in the next couple of weeks if you'd like to learn a little bit more. And last but not least, in a quite short book haul video, usually my book hauls sprawl for an hour or so, this is A Song of Wraiths in Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, another one that I talk about in my July wrap-up. I loved this. This was my favorite book of last month. It was so good. It was so much fun. It does a lot of things with YA tropes and your expectations as a YA reader and flips them on their head, which I always appreciate. It's such a rollicking good story, has great characters, a wonderful world, really interesting magic. It's just great. I really love this one. So if you've heard of this, because a lot of people are talking about this book, it is a new release that came out in July, and you are on the fence about reading it, I would definitely recommend it. It is excellent. It is so good. This is my favorite YA book of the year so far, and definitely one of my favorites overall. Again, I talk about this more in my July wrap-up, and you can go ahead and check that out below. So that is it for this July book haul. It's much shorter than I feel like my book hauls usually are, although I feel like the pandemic has kind of encouraged my book buying to slow down a little bit, which is probably not a bad thing. I'm picking up and reading books that I already owned. What an absolute concept. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love to hear in the comments below if you've read any of these books, if you hauled anything particular good in the month of July, or if these books are in your TBR. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.